Everyone deserves a bedtime story. Some of them just don't end the way you'd hope. I'm Mr. McGrin, and tonight I need to tell you about a door. Not a dramatic door, not an ancient door, just a door. This one looks like a janitor's closet in a building whose location I'm not allowed to tell you. Behind it is a staircase, and somewhere in the bottom of that staircase, in a darkness that swallows light whole, is a child who's been crying for longer than anyone can explain. 4 people went down those stairs. Let me tell you what they found. Settle in, turn the lights down low, put on headphones if you have them. And whatever you're afraid of in the dark, I'd keep that to yourself tonight. There is a building, and I won't tell you where it is. The people responsible for what happened inside made very sure of that. They buried the address, destroyed the records, and classified everything down to the font size of the documentation. As far as the rest of the world is concerned, this building is completely unremarkable. Just another campus structure, just another door in a long corridor that nobody thinks about. The door looks like a janitor's closet. That's not an accident. Behind it is a staircase. The Foundation, the organization that quietly contains the things the rest of us aren't supposed to know about, designated that staircase SCP-087, and they didn't just lock it, they engineered the lock so specifically so it cannot be opened without applying a precise electrical voltage, along with a counterclockwise key rotation. You cannot open this door by accident. You cannot open it by force. It requires specific, deliberate knowledge to get inside. And the inside of the door is lined with 6 centimeters of industrial foam padding. Now I want you to think about that for a second, because that detail right there is the first thing that should make your skin crawl. 6 centimeters of soundproofing foam on the inside of a door that leads to what is supposedly just a staircase. You don't soundproof a staircase. You soundproof a staircase when there's something inside of it you don't want people to hear, or when there's something inside of it you don't want to hear you. The foam was added later, after the knocking started. But I'll get to that. The staircase itself is brutally simple. 38-degree descent, 13 steps per flight, and each flight ends on a semicircular concrete landing, about 3 meters wide. There are no windows, no lighting of any kind. Concrete walls, concrete steps, concrete platforms, utterly featureless, utterly dark. And the thing about the dark inside SCP-087, the thing that separates it from every other dark you've ever experienced in your life, is that it eats light. And I don't mean that metaphorically, I mean that every light source brought inside, regardless of wattage, regardless of power, illuminates exactly 9 steps. 9. The Foundation tested this. 75 watts, 9 steps, 100 watts, 9 steps. The light reaches the 9th step and then stops, like the darkness below it has a surface, like it's a physical thing that light simply cannot penetrate. Think about what that means. You're standing at the top of this staircase that descends further than any staircase should. You have the most powerful portable light source the Foundation can provide. And you can see only 9 steps in front of you. 9. And then nothing, just inky darkness. And from somewhere inside that black, 200 meters below, always 200 meters below, is a child crying. The Foundation sent 4 people into that staircase. Let me tell you what happened to each of them. D842. His name doesn't matter. The Foundation doesn't use names for people like him. They use numbers, D-class, disposable class. These are the people the Foundation sends when they need a human body to walk into something they don't fully understand. and they are not particularly concerned about ever getting that body back. D8432 was 43 years old, average build. A psych evaluation described him as unremarkable in almost every measurable way. He'd been demoted to D class after mishandling another containment situation. Those details, of course, are classified. Whatever he did was bad enough that the Foundation decided his life was now a resource to be spent rather than protected. They gave him that 75-watt flood lamp, a camcorder with a live feed back to the control room, an audio headset connecting him to the researchers overseeing the exploration, and they opened that door. And I want you to picture the moment D8432 stepped through that doorway. 1 second he's standing in a normal corridor, fluorescent lights overhead, the smell of a regular building. And then he steps through the door, and the world just ends. The flood lamp illuminates 9 steps below. After that, absolute blackness, and from somewhere inside that black is a faint but unmistakable sound of a child crying. And the first words out of D8432's mouth were not clinical, and they were not professional. They were simply, "It's fucking dark." Yeah, yeah, it was. The researchers confirmed the lamp was working, thanked him, and told him to continue. That phrase comes up a lot in these transcripts. Please continue, thank you, please continue. It has a quality to it that I find most unsettling. The more I think about it, not because it's cruel, though it is, but because of what it says about the dynamic of power in that staircase. D8432 is ascending into something that should not exist, and the voice in his ear just keeps saying, "Please continue." Like the data is the only thing that matters, like the man holding the camera is just a vessel for information, not a person who's afraid. He went down 13 steps to the first landing. Concrete platform, patches of dust. Nothing unusual. He turned to face the next flight, and then he stopped. You hear that? There's a fucking kid down there. The audio equipment at the control wasn't picking it up yet. The researcher asked him to describe the sound, and here's where I want you to pay attention, because the way D8432 describes what he tells you is something important. Something about the voice does things to people. It's young, either female or a young boy. It's crying and sobbing and saying, "Please, help."
Help me.
It just keeps repeating that and crying. You can hear it in the recording. Even now, that specific quality of voice takes on when someone's trying to hold themselves together and not quite managing it. It's just this, "Please, help." Down here, 200 meters below, that was his estimate. The researchers noted it and said, "Please continue." So D8432 kept going. And here's what I need you to really sit with what I'm about to describe, because the numbers are the horror themselves. 22 flights down, and the child's voice is still unchanged. Still 200 meters below. Below 50 flights down. The same. Do you know what that means physically? 50 flights of stairs. D8432 was standing at a depth that should put him at 200 meters underground. The child should have been right there, right at the bottom of the next flight. But it was still 200 meters below. 34 minutes had passed, and he would say, "I'm not getting any fucking closer to the kid." And he wasn't. The researchers told him, "Please continue." He went down another 28 flights, 78 in total, and I want you to think about what that feels like on your body. 78 flights of stairs in near total darkness. Same concrete walls, same 9 steps of light. The same crying that never changes in volume, just constant, always exactly as far below as when you started, and at some point in that descent, the darkness stops being just an absence of light and starts feeling like a presence, like something with weight, like something that's aware of you inside it. D8432 stepped down to a new landing and shone his light onto the next step. Something was looking back, and it wasn't a child. Certainly wasn't the child. He described it in a single panicked burst, a face human-shaped, human size, at the bottom of the next flight, right at the edge of where the light died. It had the proportions of a human head, but where the mouth should have been was nothing, where the nostrils should have been was nothing, and where the pupil should have been, well, they were eyes, but they were smooth, pale, and featureless. Fixed directly on D8432, in the dark, not glancing at him, not reacting to him, just watching, like it had been waiting specifically for him, like it already knew he was coming. The Foundation designated this entity SCP-087-1, and the researchers calmly asked D8432 to approach it and illuminate it further. Think about how you'd handle that instruction. Approach it. Get closer to the featureless face watching you from the dark of a bottom staircase that shouldn't exist. Please continue. D8432 said, and you can hear in his voice, the specific sound of a human being reaching their absolute limit of what they're willing to do, that he did not want to do that. He was mid-sentence when SCP-087-1 moved, not walking, not stopping forward. It jerked, a sudden violent lurch, 50 centimeters closer in less than a second, like a video of a frame missing. D8432 ran, 18 minutes of climbing straight up in the near dark, the flood lamp swinging, his breath tearing out of him, the sound of the child crying fading as he rose, and then on that final flight, it cut out, completely gone, silence, like something had simply switched it off the moment he was close enough to the exit to leave. He made it out and he collapsed. Medical staff confirmed there were no injuries, but the footage review confirmed something else, something the Foundation noted quietly without comment, but that I think deserves more than a quiet note. The number of flights D8432 climbed on the way out matched the exact number he descended on the way in. Whatever SCP-087 was doing to the distance below, that impossible, unbreaching 200 meters, it wasn't doing it to the distance above. You could always leave. The exit was always exactly where you left it. I've thought about that a lot, I think. I think it's the most unsettling part of the whole thing. Not the face, not the crying. The fact that you could always leave. Because it means whatever is in that staircase isn't trying to stop you. It's not trying to trap you. It just wants you to stay there. The Foundation learned some things from the first exploration and would adjust accordingly. With a 100-watt lamp, it was still 9 steps. The darkness didn't care about the extra wattage. The darkness was not impressed. What was different this time, though, was the backpack. D9035 was set in with 100 small LED lights. Adhesive-packed, battery-powered, rated for 3 weeks of continuous use. 1 per landing, stuck at the wall as he descended. Breadcrumbs, a physical record of exactly how deep anyone had gone. And the fact that those lights were rated for 3 weeks is important, so remember that. D9035 was 28 years old with a strong build. His D-class record was entirely classified, meaning whatever he'd done was worse than whatever D8432 had done. D9035 did not want to go down the stairs, and he made it clear twice. The researchers reminded him of their earlier agreement. Now, I don't know what that agreement was, But I think about what it takes to make a man walk into that staircase, and I think about the fact that D9035, whatever he'd done, however bad it was, he still hesitated, still didn't want to go, still had enough of himself left to be afraid. Please continue. So he went. He placed his first LED on the first landing, and then the second kept going, pressing each small light to the wall and clicking them on, leaving a trail of tiny worm glowing markers in the dark behind him. 25 flights, 50 flights, the child's voice unchanged. 200 meters, always 200 meters. On the 51st landing, D9035 stopped. Something had been there before him. Not recently. The Foundation assessment suggested that this damage predated any of the explorations, which means whatever made it was there before Foundation ever knew SCP-087 existed, before anyone opened that door, before any human being shone a light into that room, into that staircase. There was a gouge in the concrete wall, 50 centimeters long and 10 centimeters wide, the kind of mark you'd expect if something enormous had dragged itself across the surface. But when D9035 touched it, he said something that stopped the people at control. It's smooth, it feels like glass. Now, concrete doesn't feel like glass when it's been gouged. Concrete tears, it chips and it crumbles. Whatever made that mark moved through that wall with such force or such heat that the surface vitrified, turned to glass like the inside of a lightning strike, and the first step of the next flight was completely destroyed, not chipped and not cracked, destroyed, pounded into rubble. D9035 stepped over that rubble and kept going. 89th landing, 74 minutes in, 350 meters below the surface. I feel like this kid's just trying to lure me down here. He stopped mid-sentence. SCP-087-1 was there. Same face, no mouth, no nostrils, no pupils, fixed on D9035. From the flight, immobile, watching. Note that it appeared in a different location than it did for D8432. In that first exploration, 78 landing. Now it's at the 89th. It moved between explorations in a sealed staircase with no one inside. It moved 11 flights deeper, and the researcher asked why D9035 had stopped. He didn't answer. His breathing changed. You can hear it on the recording, that specific, awful shift from something normal to something shallow and rapid. What happens when a body is preparing to enter flight or fight and hasn't decided which one to jump into yet. 13 seconds pass. 13 seconds of D9035 staring at that face, and that face staring back. And then SCP-087-1 blinked. I need you to understand what that means. This thing, this featureless, mouthless, noseless, pale face floating in the dark, had never blinked before to our knowledge, not in Exploration 1, and not in any prior observations we're aware of. It was described as appearing completely motionless in every previous encounter. It blinked, which means it has eyes that are capable of blinking, which means behind those smooth, featureless surfaces, there are actual eyes watching. D9035 screamed and ran. The researcher's voice was, "Please turn around, we need a closer look." And D9035 ignored him completely. He climbed, screaming and then babbling, then silent. 72 flights before he collapsed. And then something happened that wasn't in the first report. D9035 lay unconscious for 14 minutes, and the visual feed was black. The audio only picked up his breathing, and from far below, still below, "Please, someone help me." Patient as stone, after 14 minutes and 32 seconds, something new appeared on the recording. A heartbeat, and it wasn't D9035's. The researchers confirmed this rate was wrong. The rhythm was wrong. The actual acoustic quality of the sound was wrong in a way that was extremely difficult to articulate, but immediately and viscerally recognizable as not coming from a human chest. And under the heartbeat, slow and deliberate, getting louder over 7 seconds, was a crackling sound like ice fracturing or maybe bone. 7 seconds, then D9035 gasped and climbed the remaining flights in complete silence. No more screaming or babbling, just climbing mechanically like something operating a body rather than a person moving on their own will. He exited and he sat on the floor, and then D9035 entered a catatonic state from which he has never recovered. The medical staff found no physical explanation, no injury, no neurological event. By every measurable standard, D9035 was physically fine. He was just gone, still blinking, sure, still breathing, yeah. But whatever had been D9035 had stopped being present in that body, somewhere between the 17th landing and the exit. Now, remember I told you those LED lights were rated for 3 weeks? When our third subject entered SCP-087, every single one of those lights was gone. Not malfunctioned, gone. 100 adhesive-backed LED lights, rated for 3 weeks, placed on 100 landings in a sealed staircase that no human being had entered between the 2 explorations. They were all gone. All that remained was a faint stickiness on the walls where each light had been prior. Something in that staircase removed them, while it was sealed in the dark. I want to talk about D9A84 differently than I talked about the others, because D9A84 was 23 years old. I don't know her name, the Foundation took that too, but I know she was 23. I know she had a history of depression, and I know the Foundation classified her D-class record as involving excessive force. I also know they gave her food, water, and a thermal blanket. And that's the part I keep coming back to, the thermal blanket, because what that tells you, what that quiet, practical, almost thoughtful detail reveals, is that the Foundation intended to keep this 23-year-old woman in that staircase for as long as it took to get what they wanted. They gave her enough supplies for 24 hours underground. Please continue. She went down, and the first thing she noted was those LED lights from the last exploration. Like mentioned, they were gone, just a slight stickiness on the second landing wall. And then she heard the child, 200 meters down, same as always. Nothing unusual until the 17th landing. There was something on that ground. A substance about 50 centimeters in diameter, sticky and wet. She described the smell as old rusty metal and urine. The Foundation team documented it in the notes, documented the substance. They do not offer an explanation, and they do not speculate. They simply note it and move on. She kept going, 51st landing, same gouge, same destroyed step, noted and continued. 89th landing, the hole. A hole in the floor, 1 meter in diameter, perfectly circular. D9A84 nearly fell in. She shone her light down, blackness as far as that beam could reach. She estimated the depth at around 1 kilometer. a hole in the floor of a staircase that already shouldn't exist, going down further than a kilometer into nothing. 4 seconds of silence, and then a light turned on somewhere at the bottom of that hole for 2 seconds and then off. Did you see it? The Foundation had seen it. They asked her to continue. She descended for another 2.5 hours, stopping once to rest, wrapping the thermal blanket around herself in the dark, while the child's voice continued below her, patient and constant and endless. By the 469th landing, she was an estimated 1.2 kilometers underground, nearly 2 full kilometers beneath the surface of the earth, in the dark, alone with a voice that had been crying for her entire descent and hadn't moved an inch closer. She stopped and stated back to the team, "I'm not getting anywhere. I think it's time I went back." The researchers told her she had 24 hours of supplies, so please continue. She said no. She turned around. She looked up towards the flight of stairs above her. SCP-087-1 was standing directly behind her. Not a flight below, not a flight above. Directly behind her. Its face was 30 centimeters from the camera lens, and there's this moment that I think about more than any other moment in this entire story. More than the crying, more than the face in the dark, more than the substance on the 17th landing, or the lights that disappeared, or the heartbeat that wasn't human. It wasn't looking at D-9884. It was looking at the camera. You need to understand what I'm telling you. SCP-087-1, this entity that had appeared 3 times across 2 explorations, that had never shown any behavior beyond staring at the subjects in the staircase, was standing 30 centimeters from the camera lens and looking directly into it, not at the woman holding it, at the lens itself, at whoever was on the other side, on the other end of that feed, at the people watching, at the Foundation's documentation team. And they would describe this as the entity appearing to make direct eye contact with those viewing the footage. They wrote that down in a clinical report, and I want you to think about what it means that they felt the need to write it down, that trained researchers, people who deal with anomalies, entities for a living, felt compelled to note that this thing was looking at them through the camera, through the screen. The video feed glitched. 4 seconds of static and a screeching noise so intense. The control staff described it as being physically painful, and when it came back, D-9884 was running downwards. She wasn't trying to escape, she was running deeper and screaming, and her voice in that recording is not the voice of someone making any rational decisions. It's the voice of someone whose brain has just stopped processing options and replaced them with pure animalistic panic. And as she ran, something changed. For the first time in any of the explorations, the child's voice started getting louder. She was getting closer. Every flight she descended in her panic, the crying grew clearer, more distinct, the words separating themselves from the echo and the darkness, becoming real and present and close. "Please, help, down here." Getting closer with every step. 3 more times the camera would swing behind her, and 3 more times it would catch SCP-087-1 in pursuit, each time closer, each time not looking at D-9884, each time looking at the lens and whatever or whoever was watching, like it wanted whoever was on the other end to know it saw them. 150 flights of panicked descent. D-9884 tripped, and the camera swung and hit the ground, and the feed goes sideways, and then stillness. D-9884 was unconscious. The audio indicated she was closer to the source of the crying than any subject had ever been, closer than anyone had ever gotten. She still hadn't reached the bottom. 12 seconds of stillness, and the face And then the face filled the entire frame, edge to edge, the entire feed, nothing else, just that face. The face with no mouth, no nostrils or pupils, filling every pixel of the recording, and those smooth, featureless eyes apparently making direct eye contact with whoever was watching in the control room. The audio feed cut out. The video feed cut out. No connection was ever reestablished. D9884 was never recovered. She's still down there. She's still down there right now, at whatever depth she reached when she fell, in whatever condition she's in, with whatever is in that staircase, and the child is still crying below her, and the door above her is still there, still exactly as many flights up as it should be. She could leave at any time. Now, there was a fourth exploration, document 087-IV, entirely redacted, and I mean that completely, not redacted in the usual sense, like certain names being blocked out or specific data removed. We're talking the entire document, every line, every word, a page that exists only to confirm that something happened, and to absolutely refuse to tell you what. Whatever the fourth subject encountered, whatever depth they reached, whatever found them, it was enough for the Foundation to make a decision they have never reversed. No personnel are permitted access to SCP-087. Not for research, not for recovery, not under any circumstances. Not ever. The door stays locked, and I think about what it takes to get the Foundation to make that call. These are the people who sent a 23-year-old woman into a bottomless staircase with only a thermal blanket and told her to please continue. These are the people who listened to D9035's heartbeat change and scheduled another exploration anyways. And whatever was on that document, 087, made them close the book permanently. But here's the thing that I cannot shake no matter how many times I go back over these files. For 2 weeks after the fourth exploration, for 2 weeks after whatever happened on document 087-IV, staff and students in the building above SCP-087 started reporting sounds coming from behind that janitor's door. Knocking, slow, patient, deliberate. One knock and then a pause, always 2 seconds. Then another knock. Not frantic, not desperate, not like someone trying to get out. No pounding. This was like something that has nowhere else to be and all the time in the world. And it simply wants you. And it simply wants you to know it's there. The Foundation added more foam padding to the door, and the knocking stopped. But it stopped because it couldn't be heard anymore. Not because it physically stopped. There's a building somewhere in our world, ordinary looking, a door that looks just like a janitor's closet. Behind it is a staircase that descends into darkness that swallows light, where a child has been crying for longer than anyone can explain, where something with no mouth and no pupils waits in the dark between the flights and watches the people who come down. And on the other side of that door, right now, tonight while you're laying there in the dark, something might be knocking, very slowly, very patiently. Knock, knock. Sleep well tonight, if you can. And that is where our story ends, or at least where it ends for us. Somewhere beneath that building, in a darkness that swallows light whole, something is still waiting and still watching, still listening to a child that never gets any closer. And if you find yourself lying awake in the dark, listening a little too carefully to the sounds of your house, good, because that means you are paying attention. I'm Mr. McGrin, and next time I'm going to tell you about a man who found something in the woods that he was never ever supposed to find, and what it did to him when he tried to leave. You're probably going to want to keep the lights on for that one. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And whatever you do, don't look behind you.